In this video, we are looking at slope of a straight line. We will find the solutions to 3 exam type questions. The question reads, determine the slope of the line parallel to the line 3x minus 7y equal 1. The equation given to us is in the standard form ax plus by equals c. A is a positive number and a, b and c are constants. Now, in order for us to identify the gradient of this equation, we will need to have this equation in the slope-intercept form and not the standard form as we have here. And the slope-intercept form is y equal mx plus c, where m is our slope, also called the gradient, and c is our y-intercept. In some countries, they have a b instead of a c. So what do you know about parallel lines in reference to their slopes? Let us look at some graphical examples to help us. Now here we have the equation y equals negative 2x plus 10 as the function f. We see that the graph passes through 10 on the y-axis, and so we know that 10 is our y-intercept. Let us see if this is not a coincidence and use a different equation. So let's use y equal, let's say 5x plus 20. And as we can see, for the function g, we have the graph passing through 20 on the y-axis. So this is our y-intercept. As we can see, both graphs are sloping in 2 different directions in terms of downwards and upwards. For the function f, the graph is sloping downwards. And for the function g, the graph is sloping upwards. Could you look at these equations or functions and tell us why? Well, let us form another equation. Y equal, let us use negative as well. Negative 4x plus, let's use 30 as our y-intercept. And as you can see, 30 should be the y-intercept where the graph passes through the y-axis. Now if you look at the function f and h in the equations, the gradients are both negative and both graphs slope downwards. What if we should change negative 4x to a positive 4x? Let's see what will happen. Now as you can see, the graph slopes upwards. Change the gradient from a positive 5 to a negative 2. And if we look at their graphs, we can see that they are parallel. Is this a coincidence? Let us change the gradient for the h function to a negative 2 as well and see what happens. And as we can see, the 3 graphs are parallel. So clearly, when the coefficient of the x term is the same in a set of functions or equations, their graphs will be parallel. So parallel lines have the same slope or steepness, or we could also say gradient as another name. I'm going to change all of these to positive and see what happens. Because all those graphs were sloping downwards, given a negative gradient. Now they're all positive too, and as we can see, all the graphs are sloping upwards. So we have learned several things about gradients. Positive gradients slope upwards, negative gradients slope downwards, and lines having the same gradients will be parallel. Now we're back to the question. So we're asked about the parallel lines. We're asked to determine the slope of the line parallel to the line 3x minus 7y equal 1. Since we know that parallel lines have the same gradient, if we should find the gradient of this line with this equation, then we find the gradient or the slope of the lines that are parallel. Parallel lines have the same gradient. So let's determine the gradient of this line. We want to transform that equation into the slope-intercept form where we could identify its gradient. And we will need to subtract 3x from both sides of this equation in order to isolate the y in the process. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides of the equation. We subtract the 3x from this side, it gives us 0. And subtracting 3x from 1, we won't be able to cancel, so we will write back negative 7y equal 1 minus 3x. Now we want to get rid of the coefficient of y. Now the coefficient of y is negative 7. Coefficients multiply to the left of variables, and to get rid of them we do the reverse. The reverse of multiplication is division, and so we will divide this term by negative 7, which is the coefficient of the y term. And what we do to one side we do to the other side as well, so we divide this side as well by negative 7. Any number divided by itself will give us a positive 1. Negative 7 into negative 7 will give us a positive 1. So positive 1y is equal to 1 divided by negative 7 minus 3x divided by negative 7. 1 divided by negative 7 is the same thing as negative 1 over 7. In other words, negative 3x divided by negative 7 will give us a positive, because negative into negative will give us positive. Now we want to have the x term first, as in the case of the slope-intercept form. And so we will write the positive 3x over 7 at the beginning and the negative 1 over 7 at the end. We will have y equal positive 3x over 7 minus 1 over 7. Now we have the equation in the slope-intercept form, and we are now able to identify the slope, which is 3 over 7. We know that the line that is parallel to this equation will also have a slope of 3 over 7. Why? Because parallel lines have the same slope.